Rage, it's only a thought. How modern society programs destructive anger for profit and control. Chapter 6. Political Rage Engineering. Both political parties have discovered that angry voters donate 340% more money, volunteer 67% more time, and vote more predictably than informed citizens. American democracy has been transformed into a rage extraction machine that serves political operatives rather than the public good. The $14 billion rage harvesting operation. In 2019, a former Democratic National Committee data analyst leaked internal documents that shattered everything Americans believed about political campaigns. The documents revealed that both major political parties employ teams of behavioral psychologists, neuroscientists, and AI specialists whose sole purpose is programming rage into voters because angry citizens are exponentially more profitable than informed citizens. The Smoking Gun Evidence, DNC Internal Research, August 2019. Voter engagement analysis shows anger-based messaging generates 340% higher donation rates than policy-focused appeals. Angry voters volunteer 67% more hours and show 89% higher turnout rates. Rage programming is not a campaign tactic. It is the foundation of modern political fundraising and voter mobilization. Republican National Committee Mirror document, leaked October 2019. Emotional manipulation research confirms that fear-to-anger conversion generates optimal voter compliance and resource extraction. Calm, informed voters are less predictable and less profitable than systematically enraged constituents. Recommend expanding psychological manipulation capabilities for 2020 cycle. These documents prove that both parties use identical rage programming techniques, because the political industry discovered that democracy is less profitable than psychological manipulation. The political rage economy generates $14.2 billion per election cycle. Anger-based fundraising, $8.9 billion extracted from enraged donors. Rage advertising campaigns, $3.7 billion spent programming voter fury. Tribal merchandise sales, $1.6 billion in identity-based consumer products. Total extraction per citizen, average $127 annually from rage-programmed voters. Your political anger isn't patriotism, it's a business model. The neuroscience of political tribalism. Dr. J. Van Bavel's research at New York University used brain imaging to study how political rage programming affects neural decision-making processes. The study design, 156 voters from both parties underwent fMRI brain scans while consuming political content. Control groups, non-political content consumers, and citizens from countries without rage-based politics. 12-month study. Tracked neurological changes from sustained political rage programming. The results revealed the systematic brain damage caused by political rage programming. Rage-programmed political brain activity. Tribal identity fusion. Political affiliation becomes inseparable from personal identity. 94% identity overlap. Rational thinking suppression. 73% reduction in prefrontal cortex activity when processing political information. Enemy dehumanization. Political rage triggers same neural circuits as gambling and substance addiction. Confirmation bias amplification. 67% reduction in ability to process contradictory information. Non-political citizen brain activity. Issue-based reasoning. Political decisions made through rational cost-benefit analysis. Enhanced empathy. Political opponents processed as humans with different priorities. Information integration. Superior ability to synthesize complex, contradictory information. Solution focus. Political engagement directed toward actual problem-solving rather than tribal victory. Emotional regulation. Appropriate emotional responses to actual political threats. Dr. Van Bavel's conclusion: political rage programming creates brain states identical to religious fundamentalism and cult membership. Subjects lose the ability to think rationally about political issues, viewing every political event through the lens of tribal warfare rather than democratic problem-solving. We are witnessing the systematic destruction of Americans' capacity for democratic citizenship. The Rage Programming Playbook: How Both Parties Manufacture Voter Fury. Leaked training materials from both major political parties reveal identical techniques for programming voter rage. The Tribal Identity Installation System. Phase 1. Identity fusion. Personal values hijacking. Connect voters' core identity to political tribe membership. Family tradition exploitation. Present political affiliation as inherited family obligation. Moral superiority installation. Position voters' tribe as uniquely virtuous and wise. Enemy identification. Create specific groups for voter to fear and despise. Phase 2. Threat amplification. Existential crisis creation. Present political disagreements as threats to voter survival. Cultural destruction narratives. Claim opposing tribe wants to eliminate voters' way of life. Economic catastrophe predictions. Present opposing policies as guaranteed financial ruin. Historical catastrophe comparisons. Compare minor political setbacks to Nazi Germany, slavery, or civil war. Phase 3. Urgency programming. Crisis timing. Every election becomes the most important in history. Last chance messaging. Present current election as final opportunity to save democracy, country, values. Immediate action demands. Create artificial deadlines, requiring instant emotional response. FOMO exploitation. Fear of missing crucial political developments keeps voters constantly engaged. Phase 4. Resource extraction. Donation urgency. Convert anger into immediate financial contributions. Volunteer mobilization. Channel rage into free labor for political campaigns. Vote extraction. Ensure angry voters turn out on election day. Social recruitment. Program voters to spread rage to their social networks. Case study. How Democratic rage programming destroyed Karen's family. Karen Thompson, 54, was a moderate Democrat who voted occasionally and donated small amounts to candidates she supported. Democratic Party rage programming transformed her into a political extremist whose obsession destroyed her marriage and alienated her children. Karen's Democratic rage programming timeline. Year 1, Initial engagement, 2015. Reasonable beginning. Karen signs up for Democratic Party emails to stay informed about candidates. Moderate donations. Karen donates $50 to candidates she supports. Balanced perspective. Karen understands politics as complex issues requiring compromise. Normal relationships. Karen's political views don't affect family relationships. Year 2. Identity Programming 2016. Tribal messaging increase. Democratic emails shift from policy information to tribal identity reinforcement. Enemy identification. Republicans portrayed as threats rather than political opponents. Emotional escalation. Karen begins experiencing anger about political events. Donation increase. Karen's contributions increase to $200 to $300 monthly, driven by anger-based appeals. Year 3. Rage installation, 2017. Constant crisis. Every political development framed as existential threat to democracy. Identity fusion. Karen's self-worth becomes dependent on democratic political victories. Social media engagement. Karen begins arguing with Republicans on Facebook and Twitter. Volunteer recruitment. Karen begins volunteering 15+ hours weekly for Democratic campaigns. Year 4. Extremism development, 2018. Dehumanization completion. Karen views Republicans as evil, rather than citizens with different priorities. Relationship damage. Karen's political obsession begins affecting marriage and family relationships. Financial sacrifice. Karen donates $500 plus monthly despite financial stress. Reality distortion. Karen believes Republican victory would end American democracy. Year 5. Life destruction. 2019 to 2020. Marriage breakdown. Karen's husband divorces her due to constant political anger and obsession. Child alienation. Karen's adult children limit contact due to her political extremism. Financial damage. Karen donates $12,000 annually despite limited retirement income. Social isolation. Karen loses friendships with anyone expressing moderate or Republican views. The intervention. Karen's daughter convinced her to eliminate political content consumption for 60 days after the 2020 election. Deprogramming process and results. Week 1 through 4. Withdrawal and identity crisis. Severe anxiety. Karen experienced panic about not knowing political developments. Identity confusion. Karen's sense of self collapsed without political tribe membership. Social isolation fears. Karen worried about losing her political community. Donation compulsion. Karen experienced urges to donate money to political causes. Month 2 to 3. Perspective restoration. Threat perception change. Political issues began seeming less urgent and existential. Relationship focus. Karen started prioritizing family relationships over political battles. Local engagement. Karen became interested in community issues she could actually influence. Financial recovery. Karen stopped donating money to political campaigns. Month 4 to 12. Life reconstruction. Family reconsideration. Karen's relationships with her children gradually improved. Community involvement. Karen joined non-partisan volunteer organizations. Political moderation. Karen returned to viewing political issues as complex problems requiring compromise. Personal identity recovery. Karen rediscovered interests and values beyond political tribalism. Karen's insight. I thought I was fighting for democracy and justice. I didn't realize the Democratic Party was systematically programming me to be angry and afraid, to extract money and volunteer labor. The rage programming destroyed my family, while making me feel like a righteous warrior. I was really just a cash cow for political consultants. The Republican rage programming machine. Internal documents reveal that Republican Party uses identical psychological manipulation techniques, targeting conservative voters with systematic fear and anger programming. RNC Rage Programming Strategy. Internal Memo. 2018. Conservative voters show identical addiction patterns to liberal audiences when exposed to fear-anger programming cycles. Recommend developing invasion and destruction-themed content that maintains chronic outrage about liberal threats. Voter compliance peaks when audience believes their culture and values are under immediate existential attack. The Conservative Rage Programming Formula. Cultural disruption narratives. Every liberal policy, presented as attack on traditional American values. Minor cultural changes, framed as systematic destruction of American way of life. Demographic changes presented as existential threats, requiring defensive action. Religious freedom, portrayed as under constant assault by secular forces. Economic catastrophe programming. Liberal policies, presented as guaranteed path to economic collapse. Government assistance programs framed as theft from productive citizens. Tax increases, portrayed as confiscation of earned wealth. Regulation presented as destruction of business and free enterprise. Security threat amplification. Immigration framed as invasion, rather than economic or humanitarian issue. Crime statistics manipulated to create perception of constant physical danger. Foreign policy disagreements presented as treason and national security threats. Gun rights, portrayed as essential for survival against multiple existential threats. Case study: how Republican programming destroyed Mike's community relationships. Mike Hessen, 48, was a small business owner who voted Republican for economic reasons. Republican rage programming transformed him into an extremist, whose anger destroyed his relationships with employees, customers, and neighbors. Mike's Republican rage programming timeline. Year 1. Economic conservatism 2015. Rational motivation. Mike supports Republican candidates for small business tax policies. Moderate positions. Mike focuses on economic issues while maintaining liberal views on social issues. Community engagement. Mike participates in local business organizations and community events. Normal relationships. Mike's political views don't affect business or personal relationships. Year 2, Identity Programming, 2016. Tribal messaging expansion. Republican communications shift from economic policy to cultural identity. Enemy identification. Democrats portrayed as threats to Mike's business and way of life. Emotional escalation. Mike begins experiencing anger about political and cultural issues. Social media engagement. Mike starts sharing political content on Facebook business page. Year 3, Rage Installation, 2017. Constant crisis. Every liberal policy presented as existential threat to small business and American culture. Identity fusion. Mike's business success becomes inseparable from Republican political victories. Customer conflicts. Mike begins arguing with customers about political issues. Employee tension. Mike's political anger affects workplace relationships. Year 4. Extremism Development, 2018. Dehumanization, completion. Mike views Democrats as enemies of America, rather than fellow citizens. Business damage. Mike loses customers due to political arguments and social media posts. Community isolation. Mike's political extremism alienates him from local business networks. Family stress. Mike's political obsession creates tension with wife and children. Year 5. Life destruction 2019 to 2020. Business failure. Mike's political extremism drives away 40% of customer base. Community ostracism. Mike is removed from local business organization due to political disruption. Family breakdown. Mike's wife threatens divorce due to his political anger and conspiracy theories. Social isolation. Mike loses most friendships due to constant political arguments. The intervention. Mike's business mentor convinced him to eliminate political content for 90 days to save his failing business. Recovery process. Business focus. Mike redirected political energy toward improving customer service and product quality. Relationship repair. Mike apologized to employees and customers for political outbursts. Community re-engagement. Mike returned to local business networks by avoiding political topics. Family recovery. Mike's marriage improved when political obsession eliminated. Mike's realization. I thought I was defending free enterprise and American values. I didn't realize Republican rage programming was destroying my actual business and relationships. The political anger made me feel like a patriot, but it nearly bankrupted me and cost me my marriage. The bipartisan rage amplification system. Both parties coordinate to maintain optimal rage levels in their respective voter bases through strategic conflict manufacturing. The manufactured opposition strategy. Coordinated escalation. Both parties escalate rhetoric simultaneously to maintain anger addiction. False binary creation. Complex issues presented as simple, good versus evil choices. Solution prevention. Both parties avoid solving problems that generate profitable voter rage. Tribal conflict maintenance. Personal relationships between politicians concealed to maintain enemy illusion. Internal memo from bipartisan political consulting firm leaked 2021. Optimal voter engagement requires maintaining rage levels at 7 to 8 out of 10 intensity. Higher levels risk violence and platform abandonment. Lower levels reduce donation and volunteer rates. Both parties must coordinate escalation to prevent either side from achieving satisfaction that would reduce engagement. The social media political rage amplification. Political parties have partnered with social media platforms to create integrated rage programming systems. Facebook, political party integration. Internal documents, 2020. Political advertising effectiveness increases 340% when users are in negative emotional states. Recommend coordinating political ad delivery with anger-inducing content to maximize conversion rates. Users experiencing political rage show highest donation and volunteer recruitment rates. The integrated manipulation system. Social media algorithms program baseline anger and tribal identity. Political advertising targets users during peak rage states. Campaign messaging amplifies and directs anger toward specific actions. News media coverage reinforces and expands rage programming. Social pressure from rage program friends maintains individual participation. The fundraising rage economy. Analysis of political fundraising data reveals the sophisticated techniques used to extract money from angry voters. Anger-based fundraising techniques. Crisis urgency appeals. Emergency. Democracy under attack. Donate now. Final hours. Last chance to save America. Urgent. We're being outspent by extremists. Artificial deadlines creating false scarcity and urgency. Personal threat messaging. They want to destroy your way of life. Your family's future is at stake. Everything you believe in is under attack. Identity-based appeals that make political outcomes feel personally threatening. Tribal superiority. Exploitation. You're the real patriots defending America. Only true conservatives, progressives will donate. Prove you're not like those extremist opponents. Social proof messaging that ties donations to identity validation. Guilt and shame, manipulation. Your friends donated, why haven't you? We're losing because not enough people care. History will judge your actions in this moment. Emotional manipulation designed to overcome rational spending decisions. Case study. How political fundraising destroyed Helen's retirement. Helen Davis, 71, was a retired nurse living on Social Security who occasionally donated $25 to Democratic candidates. Political fundraising rage programming extracted $23,000 from her limited retirement savings over 18 months. Helen's fundraising exploitation timeline. Month 1 to 3. Initial hook. Reasonable beginning. Helen donates $25 to a Senate candidate she supports. Data capture. Helen's contact information sold to dozens of political organizations. Message escalation. Helen begins receiving 15 to 20 fundraising emails daily. Emotional programming. Messages shift from policy information to crisis warnings. Month 4 to 8. Addiction development. Rage amplification. Fundraising messages become increasingly alarming about Republican threats. Donation increase. Helen's contributions increase to $100 $200 monthly. FOMO exploitation. Helen fears missing crucial deadlines and opportunities. Identity validation. Helen feels important and valued by political organizations. Month 9 to 15. Financial exploitation. Constant crisis. Every day brings new emergency requiring immediate donation. Amount escalation. Helen's donations increase to $500 to $1,000 monthly. Multiple appeals. Helen receives fundraising calls, texts, emails, and mail continuously. Emotional dependency. Helen's sense of purpose becomes tied to political donations. Month 16 to 18. Financial destruction. Savings depletion. Helen donates her entire emergency fund to political campaigns. Credit card debt. Helen begins borrowing money to continue donations. Social isolation. Helen stops social activities to have more money for political donations. Health consequences. Helen skips medical appointments and prescriptions to fund political giving. The intervention. Helen's daughter discovered the financial damage and convinced Helen to block all political communications. Recovery process. Communication elimination. Helen blocked political emails, calls, and texts. Financial counseling. Helen worked with advisor to understand exploitation patterns. Emotional support. Helen joined support group for political donation addiction. Purpose redirection. Helen volunteered for local nonpartisan charity. Helen's insight. I thought I was saving democracy with my donations. I didn't realize political campaigns were using psychological manipulation to extract my retirement savings. The fundraising made me feel important and heroic, but I was really being exploited by people who saw me as a source of money, rather than a citizen with valuable opinions. The volunteer labor extraction system. Political campaigns have developed sophisticated techniques for converting rage into free labor. Volunteer rage programming techniques. Identity significance creation. You are the backbone of the movement. Without volunteers like you, democracy dies. This campaign depends on real patriots and progressives. Messaging that makes volunteers feel personally essential to political outcomes. Social belonging exploitation. Campaign offices designed as social gathering spaces for isolated individuals. Family language, creating artificial intimacy between volunteers and campaigns. Social events that blur lines between friendship and political labor. Group identity, reinforcement through shared enemies in mission. Sacrifice, glorification. True believers will sacrifice everything for the cause. Stories of volunteers who gave up jobs, relationships, or health for campaigns. Competitive dynamics, encouraging volunteers to prove dedication through increased labor. Martyrdom messaging that presents personal sacrifice as virtuous. Urgency, addiction. Constant crisis, requiring immediate volunteer response. Last-minute requests that disrupt volunteers' personal lives. Emergency phone banking and canvassing sessions. Artificial deadlines, creating chronic stress and labor extraction. Case study: how campaign volunteering destroyed Jennifer's career. Jennifer Sims, 34, was a marketing professional who volunteered 5 to 10 hours weekly for political campaigns during election years. Volunteer rage programming led her to sacrifice her career and personal life for political campaigns that discarded her after elections. Jennifer's volunteer exploitation timeline. Year 1. Moderate engagement election year. Reasonable beginning. Jennifer volunteers 8 hours weekly for presidential campaign. Skill utilization. Jennifer uses marketing expertise to help with campaign communications. Social connection. Jennifer enjoys meeting like-minded volunteers. Balanced life. Jennifer maintains work performance and personal relationships. Year 2. Off-year escalation. Continuous engagement. Jennifer continues volunteering for local campaigns and party organizations. Identity development. Jennifer begins identifying as campaign professional rather than marketing professional. Relationship sacrifice. Jennifer's romantic relationship ends due to political obsession. Career neglect. Jennifer's work performance declines as political volunteering increases. Year 3. Full exploitation. Next election year. Career abandonment. Jennifer takes unpaid leave from job to work full-time on campaign. Financial sacrifice. Jennifer depletes savings while working for free. Health damage. Jennifer works 80-plus hour weeks under extreme stress. Social isolation. Jennifer's only relationships are with campaign staff and volunteers. Year 4. Post-election abandonment. Campaign termination. Jennifer's campaign position ends immediately after election. Professional damage. Jennifer's career has stagnated due to 2 years of political focus. Financial crisis. Jennifer has no savings and damaged professional reputation. Social abandonment. Campaign friends disappear when election ends. The recovery process. Career reconstruction. Jennifer spent 18 months rebuilding professional reputation. Financial recovery. Jennifer worked multiple jobs to recover from political sacrifice. Relationship repair. Jennifer reconnected with pre-political friends and interests. Political boundaries. Jennifer learned to separate civic engagement from identity validation. Jennifer's realization. I thought I was serving democracy by sacrificing everything for campaigns. I didn't realize political organizations were exploiting my desire to make a difference, to extract free labor. The campaigns made me feel like a hero saving America, but they discarded me the moment the election ended. The voting behavior manipulation system. Political rage programming doesn't just extract money and labor, it manipulates voting behavior to serve party interests rather than citizen interests. Rage-based voting manipulation techniques. Issue distraction. Culture war amplification. Focus voter attention on divisive social issues rather than economic policy. Symbolic conflict emphasis. Prioritize flag, anthem, and ceremony disputes over governance. Personality-based campaigns. Focus on candidate characteristics rather than policy positions. Tribal loyalty testing. Present votes as loyalty tests rather than policy choices. Strategic ignorance maintenance. Complexity avoidance. Present complex issues as simple good versus evil choices. Nuance elimination. Suppress moderate voices that might reduce tribal anger. Solution prevention. Avoid detailed policy discussion that might reduce emotional engagement. Opposition caricature. Present opposing positions in most extreme, unreasonable forms. Vote against programming. Enemy focus. Encourage voting against opponents, rather than for positive vision. Lesser evil messaging. Present every election as choice between terrible options. Fear-based turnout. Motivate voting through terror, rather than inspiration. Negative campaigning. Focus campaign messaging on attacking opponents, rather than promoting solutions. The democracy destruction evidence. Political rage programming has systematically destroyed Americans' capacity for democratic citizenship. Measured democracy damage. Tribal identity override. 89% of Americans vote straight party tickets, regardless of candidate quality. Policy ignorance. 67% of voters cannot name their representatives' positions on major issues. Compromise rejection. 78% of partisans view political compromise as betrayal. Opposition dehumanization. 84% of strong partisans view opposing party as threat rather than fellow citizens. Solution resistance. 72% of voters prefer partisan conflict to bipartisan problem solving. International democracy comparisons. Countries with regulated political advertising show superior democratic outcomes. Higher voter knowledge of actual policy positions and candidate qualifications. More accurate risk assessment of political and economic threats. Greater willingness to compromise and support bipartisan solutions. Lower political anxiety and anger about democratic processes. Higher trust in democratic institutions and electoral outcomes. The resistance movement, citizens fighting back. Despite systematic manipulation, growing numbers of Americans are recognizing political rage programming and disengaging from tribal politics. Political deprogramming movement growth. 34% of Americans now identify as independent rather than party members. 67% of political independents report improved mental health and relationships. 78% reduction in political anger among citizens who eliminate partisan media. $2.8 billion revenue loss annually to political industry from citizen disengagement. Alternative political engagement strategies. Issue-based voting. Supporting candidates based on specific policy positions rather than party affiliation. Local engagement. Focusing political energy on community issues that can be directly influenced. Cross-partisan cooperation. Working with people from different tribes on shared concerns. Solution-focused activism. Supporting organizations that address problems rather than amplify anger. The Liberation Protocol. Escaping political rage programming. Based on successful cases of political deprogramming. Phase 1. Recognition. Week 1 and 2. Track emotional impact. Log mood changes before/after consuming political content. Identify manipulation techniques. Notice fear language, tribal messaging, and urgency creation. Calculate resource drain. Determine time, money, and energy consumed by political anger. Assess effectiveness. Evaluate whether political engagement creates actual positive change. Phase 2. Disengagement. Weeks 3 to 6. Eliminate fundraising. Unsubscribe from all political fundraising communications. Reduce media consumption. Limit political news and social media to specific times. End tribal discussions. Avoid political arguments that reinforce tribal programming. Question: automatic responses. Pause before reacting emotionally to political stimuli. Phase 3. Reorientation. Weeks 7 to 12. Local focus. Redirect political energy toward community issues you can influence. Issue-based learning. Research specific policies independent of partisan framing. Cross-tribal dialogue. Engage respectfully with people holding different political views. Solution seeking. Support organizations that address problems rather than amplify conflicts. Phase 4. Constructive engagement. Ongoing. Informed voting. Base political decisions on research rather than tribal loyalty. Community involvement. Participate in local organizations addressing actual problems. Civic education. Help others recognize and resist political manipulation. Democratic citizenship. Engage in politics as problem-solving, rather than tribal warfare. The choice: citizen or consumer. The American political system has been transformed from democratic self-governance into a raid extraction industry that profits from citizen psychological manipulation. The evidence is overwhelming. Political parties use identical manipulation techniques because angry voters are more profitable than informed citizens. Political engagement correlates with increased anxiety, anger, and social isolation. Political disengagement correlates with improved mental health and community relationships. Countries with regulated political advertising show superior democratic outcomes. Citizens who eliminate political rage programming become more effective at addressing actual problems. The choice is clear: continue being a rage battery for political operatives who profit from your fury, or reclaim your citizenship and engage in politics as democratic problem-solving rather than tribal warfare. Your political anger is not patriotism. It's a product being sold to the highest bidder. Your tribal loyalty is not civic virtue. It's profitable compliance with psychological manipulation. Your political rage is not democratic engagement. It's the systematic destruction of your capacity for citizenship. Democracy requires citizens, not rage addicts. Reclaim your citizenship. Resist the programming. Engage constructively. Your country needs your rational thought, not your manufactured fury. The future of American democracy depends on citizens choosing cooperation over tribal warfare. Be a citizen, not a consumer of political rage. Ready for Chapter 7? Gaming's Rage Mechanics Empire. This is where we expose how the $347 billion gaming industry discovered that frustrated, angry players spend exponentially more money than satisfied players, and how they've transformed entertainment into psychological warfare designed to extract maximum revenue from manufactured player fury.